Everybody, welcome to the Rochester Real Estate Show podcast. Jason Mancuso here with Steve Popowych again of the Anthony Butera Team at Keller Williams Realty. What's going on, buddy?
Just got back from a good vacation.
Yeah? A little camping?
Getting back into it. 10 days, 7 of those in the Adirondacks and no power. So that was, an adventure, but got to do some fishing and some kayaking and
Good.
Spend some time with family. So that was nice.
Good. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, this topic here will probably be more me filling you in than
A little bit.
It's good. It's good to get away, and it's what's nice about our business is like even when we're not on vacation, just it's not that 9 to 5, right? So it's like you're plugged in, you're working away, staying on top of it, and that's just kind of a requirement for agents that are good at what they're doing.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, no, the phone still rings. You still got to answer it. There's text messages. There's phone calls. Internet was, Adirondacks is tough, but we make it work. What I mean?
That's what you got us here back in civilization for.
Exactly.
So. Good. Glad you had a good time.
Yeah.
So wanted to touch again on, essentially current market conditions. What's going on? I mean, we're filming this or taping this Wednesday, August 10th, 2022.
Yeah.
For reference. And I think I had the same topic. It was just a matter of a few weeks ago with Steve Bentavania on our team, and it's just with where we're at right now and where we're headed. This is probably going to be something that becomes a redundant topic. It's worth touching on every month because it's totally different than what we've experienced up until recently in the last few years, to where it's like beating the dead horse of seller's market. How high do you want to go? If you're a seller, you're going to sell your house for a lot with a lot of interest. And as a buyer, how much are you willing to pay? What are you comfortable with? What makes sense?
How much money do you have in your pocket?
So fast forward to now. Beginning of August. And I've always said like it's tough for us to be in the prediction making business.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Right now, it was easy enough the last few years, you're gonna, it's a seller's market, and you're gonna get a lot for your home, and if you're a buyer, you better be ready to be competitive.
Absolutely. Yeah.
What's interesting now is that we've fluctuated between like, man, are we coming off, the last 6 months or so, right? Are we coming off the peak? Is this going to soften up? Is it going to be a land of opportunity for buyers?
Yeah.
And still the same old story, fluctuating between that and still like instances of the same story of like, 15 offers on this one, 25 on this one, this much over asking, et cetera, et cetera.
Yep.
So, I don't know, what's your take on it?
Yeah, so I mean, before I left for vacation, I saw a decent amount of homes that were making it past this delayed negotiations. And I mean, I had some buyers that were specifically looking like sub 150, really. I mean, and wanted to keep their payment fairly reasonable. And there was opportunity there for them. And we were able to get them into a home before I left, So I think that there's opportunity on certain homes.
Yeah.
I don't want to tell, I guess the message here shouldn't be listen, it's a free-for-all now. If you want to buy a home, now's the time. I can get you 6% in a seller concession. That's not the case.
Right.
The case is the homes that are perfect, they're still going to sell, with multiple offers, probably a good chunk of money over.
Right.
The homes that are good, sometimes they're making it past delayed. And and if you've got money to buy a home,
right,
there's opportunity.
Yeah.
And more opportunity than there was a year ago.
Sure.
Absolutely.
Totally agree with that.
And
it's all with the asterisks, right? Or the caveat of
absolutely.
Okay, don't take that land of opportunity and just get excited that everything's going to play to your advantage and that things have shifted to a buyer's market
100%.
And you hold the cards, right?
No,
And I think that's what, with all the rhetoric, with all the news headlines, whatever you want to call it, in the real estate industry that are flying around rapidly at this point, just based on what's happened in the last couple of years, and also just what's happening in the economy overall now. It's tough to decipher, or you have to decipher it. to make sure that you're not just reading that and be like, as a buyer, like, okay, game on.
Yeah, no.
Advantage to me, right?
Yeah.
And that's why I say, like, tough for us to make predictions, right? Because, this has all happened in a short time.
Yeah.
Call it 6 months.
Yeah.
And if you were talking to me in January or the fall of last year,
I probably would have been like, yeah, right.
and told me that, hey, 6 months later, the interest rate's going to near double. You're going to be looking at 6% or in the fives.
Yep.
And to say that it's also not going to cause a just immediate screeching halt or shift into the market towards the buyer's market.
Yeah.
I would have told you, like, how does that make sense? How does that just not drastically change things?
Yeah, absolutely.
To where it doesn't, change drastically.
Yeah. No.
And sure enough, here we are, still in a seller's market, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean,
Absolutely.
I think ultimately, you tell me your take, but my take is that it's still just an inventory problem.
Yeah,
There's not enough homes for sale to meet the demand.
for sure.
Even though, this is tough to like measure, right? But the demand has to have dropped because of what the interest rates have done this year.
I think so.
In
for
terms of just like, buyers in the last few years with such low interest rates. Even if you don't need to buy a house, there was a lot of like,
Yeah.
why not?
Yeah, and yeah, absolutely. I mean, I can tell you firsthand experience. I've lost buyers from rate, from cost of living increase.
Sure.
People. I try to be open and transparent with my people, and I tell them, listen, I expect the same from you. And some of my buyers over the last 2 months have called me and said, hey, Steve, listen, like financially, it's been a little tough. I had to dip into my savings. I no longer have $20,000 in the savings account to buy a home.
Right.
Okay, well then maybe let's reset.
Yep.
Go back to saving. Give it a couple months. We'll touch base. So I mean,
That's
happens.
real life, man.
It is,
right?
absolutely.
That's real life.
Yeah,
this
absolutely.
is what's going to happen.
Yeah.
As things. I mean, hopefully it doesn't progress towards the worst.
Exactly.
Right? And I mean, to touch on that, we've talked before. Like inflation is a big hot topic right now. Today, August 10th, 2022, the inflation report came out with positive news.
It's good.
In terms of the expected number that was supposed to be released was 8.7% rate of inflation, and it was 8.5.
It's a little under.
So it was lower than expected, which, the way the markets, the powers that be call it, right? The way it works is whenever that happens, then, okay, positive things should happen, with the economy as a whole moving forward.
Yeah.
In terms of and this is where it's just caveat asterisk to that, it's way too soon to get excited because at the end of the day, 8.5% inflation rate is still nowhere near good.
Yeah.
But we, last month was 9.1.
Yeah.
People losing it over that, right?
Yeah.
To have that come off, hopefully is an indicator that everything that the powers that be are working on is actually working.
Yeah, exactly.
So why that's so important for real estate in our industry is, that's the primary factor of what's going to, drive the fluctuation in the interest rates.
Yeah.
So, getting with our lender today that we work closely with dropped about 1/4 point.
It's great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's good. Now, with that said, rates have been fluctuating all along.
It's a day-to-day thing, right?
It really is. And I think that day-to-day comment really kind of wraps up this topic in terms of, hey, day-to-day, week-to-week, don't get excited about a land of opportunity as a buyer. Because right now we still are seeing a lot of activity on listings.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of showings.
Oh, yeah.
And really, I'd have to rewind the tape to see, what the specifics were from a month ago or 3 weeks ago, whenever we did that episode with Steve, and see the tone of it. Because right now, it feels like, at least for us in our listings, which, there's been a whole bunch of them, so like we could kind of have a good pulse on the market, right? And, we're back to seeing the high level of activity with 40, 50 plus showings.
That's crazy.
17 offers as an example,
Yeah.
So it's like, there was a time when it was a little bit softer, but still competitive.
Absolutely.
right?
Yeah.
But then, again, for every one example like that, 50 showing, 17 offers,
you got the other
you're going to
one.
have the example of like didn't sell after the deadline,
Yep.
and now there's that opportunity that you speak of.
Yeah, and I think if you don't have a ton of money to buy a house, right? And you've got your minimum, and you can do minimum down payment. You can do closing costs. You can do the minimums, to buy a home. You're not able to put down 20%, If you're that person, there's opportunity out there. We have to look for it, right? It's not going to be the house that gets 40 or 50 showings, 17 offers.
Yeah.
But there's an opportunity out there for those people to buy a home. It's just about watching the market, seeing what's going on, and kind of making the move when the time's right.
And there could even be, you could still, depending, right? You
Yeah.
could still be competitive in a competitive situation.
For sure.
Right?
Yep.
It just may be the example of like what you laid out. Say they're only, in the $200,000 range.
Yep.
Well, they could still be competitive on houses that are listed for 150,
Absolutely.
right?
Absolutely.
Now,
100%.
if they're expecting a 250 house,
Yeah,
right?
that's
It's
good.
not going to add up,
Yeah.
and that's tale as old as time, right? So that's really, never going to change until there is just a hard shift. If there is a hard shift,
Yeah.
or if there is a total fallout of the market,
Yeah.
Which with everything going on, and again, tough to make predictions.
Mm-hmm.
So, I really don't see that happening.
Yeah, and I think that too. Like also to kind of what you're saying. I mean, if you're looking at brand new listings, if you're qualified for 200, you can look 150 to 200. You know what I mean?
Sure.
We can look 200, right?
Yep.
But there's a strategy to that.
Yeah.
And if your max is 200 and you love a 200 home and it's got delayed negotiations, I'm going to keep an eye on that listing.
Yeah.
I'm going to see what the activity is.
Yep.
I'm going to reach out to the agent.
Yep.
I'm going to find out what's going on. If they have no offers,
Right. Or no,
you
very
better
little
believe
showings.
Yeah, I'm going to have you teed up
Yep.
and ready to go. And either right before delayed if they have no offers or right after.
Right.
We're hitting the road running,
And the opposite of that is that example, you could do 200, the house is listed at 200, it's mint.
Yep.
And we have the ability as agents most of the times to see like what is being scheduled
for sure.
for showings.
For
So
sure.
if we look at that schedule and we can just see there's 40 showings,
You're like, oh,
that's a conversation of like it would take a miracle for this to not sell at over 200 because there's 40 people going through it.
Not only that, but we know
That's a gauge of the interest, right?
absolutely, yeah. And also, we know the market, right? Like, right. Especially if it's areas that we work consistently all the time.
Sure.
I see a house come on at 200, and I know there's been sales at 250, 260.
Right.
And you're qualified
And you
at
can
200.
see the activity, yeah.
I'm going to go, guys, listen, this is why we don't stand a chance.
Well, and important to clarify, too, in that example, say a house listed at 200, you can go to 200, and the house shouldn't be listed at 200.
Yeah.
And we know that, and
Absolutely.
we can see that the activity reflects that. And
For
it's,
sure.
Because the market's very savvy. People are
yeah.
savvy. They have access to information. They know what's going on.
Oh, yeah.
So when people know a house is overpriced, what's happening more and more now is like, I'm going to let them do their thing.
Yep.
If somebody wants to give it that to them,
Yeah.
God bless them. But I'm going to wait it out
Yeah.
and see how this plays out. Maybe I'll strike at that point.
You sound like my best friend, JT. I'm talking to you, buddy.
Yeah. Shout out to JT. So I mean, it's all case by case.
Yeah.
Right. And I think you gotta trust the logic of what's happening out there.
Yeah.
To help you with decision making, to help you with really, it's not about our time, but like saving your time too, in terms of like listen, this is it's guaranteed to go over more or less, and just being careful with that.
Yeah, and people know. They like you said, there's so much information out there.
Yeah.
Rarely do I get a buyer that just has no clue what's going on.
Well,
Yeah,
I hear you, but I think it's what I'm trying to say is I think I want people to be more curious about what's
me
going
too.
on and
Yeah.
ask more questions.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
And if anything, it makes our job easier. Not that this is what it's about, but it's like I'd rather you ask a bunch of questions.
Oh, yeah.
Because if not, then I got to go into overdrive mode to really protect you and make sure, like, hey, you haven't asked this. This is how this works. Are you clear on this? And a lot of times it's like deer in headlights, and then it's then we're just diving into, and it can be more confusing.
Well, yeah. As
So
an agent,
one of the things I've realized recently is like, I like people that are asking questions.
oh, me too.
I'd rather work with them than somebody who's just it's great when people trust you, right?
Yeah.
And it's not that I don't want to work with somebody who doesn't ask any questions, just puts their full trust in us, right?
Yeah.
But it's just like, this is the biggest financial decision in your life for most
sure.
people, and it's
For
your
sure.
home.
For sure.
It's
And
like get the education piece out of the way, and,
Absolutely.
and all along the way too. So I don't know, kind of an aside tangent there, but
well, I feel like too, like people who don't ask questions as an agent sometimes.
yeah.
I sometimes ask them, are you lost? Do you need help? I mean, like, because seriously, like, I mean, like, and honestly, because like if they're not asking questions, it's almost like a red flag. Like, if I lost them, is this beyond? Are they just totally lost on what this process is and what's going on? And like then I get concerned.
Well,
you
and
know?
that could also be relative to the noise that's out
Yeah.
there in terms of the news headlines,
sure.
the rhetoric, like I said,
Yeah.
and they may just be making their own decisions based off that.
Yep.
Versus like a lot of the news headlines are more national than local.
Oh, yeah.
And even the local news headlines don't really pertain to Rochester locally as much as they should.
Yeah.
And we're a totally different market than Phoenix or South Florida or California, whatever,
Buffalo.
right?
I mean,
even
you
Buffalo.
know what I mean?
Good
I mean,
point.
that's their
Good
neighbor,
point.
you know?
So yeah, I mean, get down to the nitty gritty, not only of Rochester, New York, where you're looking, but also like specific neighborhood in Chi-Li or
sure.
whatever. Like, and put us to work, basically.
Yeah.
So to wrap up this topic of, current market update.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's very much a summary of like, hey, day by day, right now, today, Wednesday, August 10th,
Yep.
good inflation news report came out.
Positive.
Yep.
Yeah.
Positive, yeah.
Positive compared to what we see.
Yeah, exactly. Comparatively speaking. Rates fluctuating, but we're off like the terrifying numbers with a 6 in front of it. Right now they're in the 5s.
Yep.
Which is better than 6, but not as good as 3.5 or whatever you had a year ago.
Yep.
But demand has not totally dropped off a cliff at all.
No.
Don't get me wrong.
It has not.
Demand has dropped, but not to the point where you would
Yes.
think you'd think there'd be a major effect, and there really hasn't.
Yeah.
And right now, still a strong seller's market.
For sure.
So if you need to sell,
Do
you're
it.
still in a good spot.
Absolutely.
And if anything, hopefully there's more opportunity, comparatively speaking, again, for buying than what there has been in the last couple of years.
agree.
Still competitive, but maybe only 25 over instead of 50 or 75, whatever the extreme example. So
For sure. Yeah, no, I agree with you 100%. I mean, I think there's opportunity for buyers on certain homes, and there's still phenomenal opportunity for sellers.
Yeah.
You
And,
know?
and on the selling side of the conversation, like pricing still is increasing.
Oh, yeah.
It hasn't dropped off.
No.
So you're good.
Yeah.
We don't, and this is, again, dangerous to make predictions. At this point, we're doing this episode every few weeks. We don't know what next year is going to be like. We don't know what September is going to be like.
With no clue.
October, etc. I don't know what 2025 is going to look like.
Yeah. I know September looks like football.
Yeah,
Other than
there
that,
you go.
I don't
Yeah,
know.
exactly,
I mean,
exactly. So we're living in the now, and I think if anything, it really brings to the forefront the people that have the needs to make a move, right?
Yep.
And kind of the luxury purchases of the last few years, are going to drop off in terms of just like secondary, and purchases like lakefront property type of thing.
Yeah, for sure.
And just the that house looks great. It's bigger, and the rates are low, so why not?
Exactly.
I think those types of decisions will trail off here.
Yeah.
But there's always enough people going around that need to buy and or sell.
Yeah.
That this market is not cooling, and not. I mean, it is. I shouldn't say it. It is cooling off the extremes, but
Yes.
not to where it's like freezing cold and
Exactly.
dead.
Exactly.
So,
And I mean, we're lucky here in Rochester because we have such an affordable housing market.
and I think that's, for our, I guess the prediction I would make
Yeah.
for the short and the long term is that we're relatively insulated to major economic factors because of that.
I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In South Florida, where 7 years ago a home was $350,
Yeah.
and now it's $950.
Yep.
Which is a legitimate example.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That when things really take a turn on the other end of the cycle, that 950 could be 650.
Yeah. You're right.
We don't know.
I don't think we're going to see that here.
No, and because there's just not
There's not
those
enough
big
increase.
swings going on. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
We've had a lot of pricing increasing in the last few years.
Yeah.
But my logic is just this region, go up and down the throughway, Cleveland to Albany,
Yep.
just this region. Like, where are you going in the world where you can get into a suburban home for,
Sub 200.
yeah.
Nowhere.
So before, and now even if that's 250 now
Yeah.
or 300,
Yeah.
we're still significantly below the national average. And people got to live somewhere.
You can still get into a home in the suburbs for 150.
Sure.
You know,
That's my point. Like,
it's
we're-
not going to be a huge home, right?
Yeah,
But
and
it's,
5 years
you know?
ago, that same house was probably 100.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
like, where the hell are you going for 150?
Exactly.
Where were you going for 100? Like,
know.
perspective or context is everything, right?
Absolutely.
Like, I wish
Yeah.
I had,
Yeah.
the crystal ball, and I would have bought, all the real estate I could 5 years
bunch of
ago,
them.
right?
Yeah.
But, yeah. So, I don't know. I mean, basically, rambling about, hey, it's not changed, but it's changing. It's,
Yes.
it's this, it's that. It's going to be
Yeah.
that sort of conversation, I think,
Oh.
for a little bit.
For sure.
So.
It's definitely going to be something that I think at least a few months down the line we're going
Bottom line, hang on, ask questions,
Yeah.
get educated, get a game plan in
Yes.
place,
Call us.
move forward.
Call us. Talk to your real estate agent. I mean, that's probably the biggest thing people assume.
I agree.
Call us, talk to us, ask us those questions. We're never bothered by answering questions
and
about
again,
market.
We'd rather have you
Yeah.
have that approach. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So.
Yeah.
Cool.
For sure.
Good stuff.
Cool.
Steve Popowych, Anthony Butera Team at Keller Williams Realty, and Jason Mancuso here as always. Thanks for tuning in, guys. We'll catch you next time on the Rochester Real Estate Show podcast.